Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are very excited to be here. My name is Erika Moreno, and I'm a VP of Product Management here at MicroStrategy.
And I'm Saurabh Abhyankar. I'm the Chief Product Officer here as well. As Erika said, we're really happy to introduce you to some new launches that we're doing today. Actually, we launched this a few days ago. But before we get into all that, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about MicroStrategy for those of you that don't know who we are. MicroStrategy is actually the largest independent, publicly traded business intelligence analytics company in the world. We've actually been in business for about 34 years now. We've got over 2,000 employees, amazing customers all around the world, and we operate pretty much, in every major country you could imagine. And we've been on a mission for bringing intelligence everywhere for all of those years. In fact, if you ever look at any of our water bottles or come to any of our trade shows, you'll see intelligence everywhere written across pretty much everything that we do. It is really our DNA and what we're trying to achieve in this world. And for all these years, there's been these moments in time where we had the opportunity to bring information to even more people, right? There was the era of desktop intelligence to web intelligence, the early 2000s. And then we had the era from, web intelligence to mobile intelligence, to put information in the palm of your hands, which occurred sort of in the late 2000s. And today we're really at the cusp of what we believe is probably the biggest revolution we've ever actually seen in all of these years. And it's the advent of Gen AI and generative AI, which really allows business intelligence to start having almost human qualities, right? Being cognitive, intelligent, smart. And we think that that can help bring intelligence to really everyone out there that just wants to, type natural language, ask simple questions, get answers to those questions on the fly. So we are super excited because this fits very much into what we've been trying to do for all these years. And we actually think there's huge opportunity, whether it's business intelligence or just generally in all of your organizations, to use AI to really make your businesses better, right? Whether that's delivering better recommendations to your customers or having better, frontline applications to make the customer experience better, or if you're trying to do better financial analysis, trying to do optimization of stores or optimization of resources that we have. We're all trying to figure out ways to do more with less. Or maybe more with more, right? And really making sure that everything that we do in our businesses are really optimized. And AI gives us almost like this multiplier effect, right? Where every single one of our employees, every single one of us can be better than we were a year ago. And I think that's just a really awesome opportunity for all of us in the industry. But before we start talking about AI, you might be asking yourself, like, why is this BI company talking about artificial intelligence? What do we bring to the table that's unique? And how can we work together with you to really deliver, great solutions to the market and to, all the people around us? And if you think about AI and what it's capable of doing, it's actually a very, very smart thing. And that sounds sort of silly, right? But AI has these great cognitive capabilities. But what we really need in the world is something that's both smart and precise. And so you may have used, GPT-4 or something like this in the past. You might have asked it questions. And what you'll probably find that if you ask it questions where you do not know the answer, it'll seem super smart. Like it gives you an answer like, hey, that's a pretty good answer. I don't know, right? But if you ask it a question where you do know the answer, you'll start to see that sometimes it hallucinates, sometimes it kind of makes things up. And so what we really want to do is build a solution that's both smart and precise. And if we're honest with ourselves and we look at kind of where BI has been over all of these years, I think BI is very precise. It actually has the ability to do, trusted calculations. It can deal with structured data. It's very, very what we would call deterministic. You ask it a question and you get back, answers that you would expect. But BI isn't actually very smart, right? Even though it has the word intelligence in it, it doesn't understand a human being. If you typed in a question in natural language, it wouldn't really understand what you're asking. If you wanted to understand why something happened, BI historically hasn't been able to actually give you those kinds of answers. However, AI, on the other hand, let's see if this works. AI, on the other hand, it has that capability. It can understand you. It actually feels very, very human. You type something in, it understands what you're trying to say, and then it starts giving you answers. I don't know if some of you used, GPT in the early days, about a year ago now, and had it like write poems and do really kind of crazy creative things for you. It was sort of mind blowing just how creative and capable it was from a cognitive perspective. But as I pointed out earlier, AI tends to have one major flaw, which is that it's not necessarily precise. It does tend to hallucinate. It might make things up. And importantly, while BI is what we call deterministic, right, which means that you give it input, you'll get the same output if it's based on the same stuff. AI is probabilistic, right, non-deterministic, which means you can ask it the same question with the same data, with the same context, but it might give you different answers. And of course, you can't really run a business that way, right? And so what we're trying to do with MicroStrategy AI and MicroStrategy ONE, which is our platform, is intersect these two things, right? Take the 34 years of history that we have in BI and all the governance and trust and things that we've been building and inject generative AI, large language models into that world to provide the best of both of these worlds. And today we're really proud to introduce that to you and give you a sense of, how we brought these two things together and the use cases that we can make possible as a result. So we fundamentally believe that AI and BI are better together, right? We think that the trusted data, the governance, the precision of BI can help you roll out AI solutions an order of magnitude faster than if you had to code all that stuff yourself, right? If you had to figure out how to get the data to be governed and trustable and how to figure out how to do the calculations and all that, if you can get trusted data to AI, you can deploy AI solutions faster. And on the other side of it, we think that AI can actually make BI better as well, which is make it more productive, make it easier to do things, make it more understanding of what the user is actually trying to do. So we really think this is a match made in heaven to a certain extent. But there are some challenges, right? So if you're trying to deploy an AI solution, and my guess is you're in this webinar because either you are trying to deploy solutions, maybe your management's asking you to, maybe you're sitting on a board or you're CXO or you're a VP of AI or data, and you're tasked with trying to figure out how to inject AI into your enterprise applications, into your business applications, and you're kind of going, well, how do I do all this, right? And there's these 4 challenges that you'll typically run into. The first is the user experience itself. Like, how do you actually build a user experience that is interactive, that has chat capabilities, that's available on mobile devices, that's embedded into your application, that's available standalone on web browsers? How do you do all that work? How do you do SSO? There's all these things you got to do to actually even build the UI. Behind the scenes, you then need to figure out, well, how do I get trusted data to this thing? How do I connect to all those different applications that we've got? How do I get the data? If you're trying to build something that's going to get out to thousands of people, you need to apply, role level security and object level security and all kinds of governance and trust to make sure that the AI is fed with the right kind of information. And that's not an easy thing to do, but that's certainly a second sort of big challenge that you would face. The third major issue, and this is kind of new, right? The third major issue is even if you had the ability to build the UX and you had all the trusted data, it's like, do you have the AI skills required to actually code all this stuff, right? Do you know which LLM to choose? Do you know how to use those APIs? How do you do prompt engineering? It turns out that prompt engineering is actually a pretty hard thing to do. And we've spent a lot of time doing this for you. And then finally, you want that to fit into your ecosystem, whether that's one of the hyperscalers like Azure or AWS or Google Cloud Platform, or if it's something else, right? So you want to make sure that you can plug all of this into your complex enterprise deployment. And so our job and what we've been really trying to do, and we hope that you agree that we do, is make all of that much easier than it would have been if you had to do it yourself, right? So of course, we can ship these UIs. We've got mobile device support. We've got web UIs. We've got hyper intelligence and embedding capability. And so we've been doing UIs and getting information out to the masses for a really, really long time. We've, of course, got our platform, the semantic graph for trust, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The important thing and the new thing with MicroStrategy AI is that we've taken care of all of the LLM integration, the prompt engineering for you. So you don't have to worry about any of that. You just basically turn on our AI product and it just works. It just does its thing, which is really cool. And then finally, one of the things that we're really proud of is that we aren't siloed into a particular hyperscaler, right? So we support Microsoft, we support AWS and Google. We've been, like I said, the largest independent publicly traded BI company for a long time. And we're really proud of that ability to support pretty much any environment that you have out there. And so with that, I'm proud today to introduce MicroStrategy AI to you. We actually made that generally available probably about 8 or 9 days ago. It's the first webinar that we've had a chance to really talk to everybody and all of you about what it is. And so MicroStrategy AI is a brand new product that sits in the MicroStrategy ONE platform and is available to you today. This is not demoware. I know a lot of people are out there, putting press releases and things on their websites of things that may or may not come in the future. This is available today, and we really hope that you join us on this journey. So MicroStrategy AI is made up of like two major things, right? On the front end is a new AI assistant that we call Auto. And Auto is integrated in various parts of our portfolio that Erika will show you in a few minutes. But behind Auto is really where all the sophisticated engineering is happening, right? Where we've integrated with Azure OpenAI. We've done huge amounts of prompt engineering so that for you, the user can just ask a question and magically you get answers that are trustworthy, but there's a ton of engineering behind the scenes to orchestrate between the AI layers and the BI layers so that we can actually generate results and understand what the user is trying to do. And so Auto is our new AI assistant, and we're actually making it available in 4 different parts of our user experience. The first is what we call Auto Dashboard. And what that does, as you could probably imagine, is it helps you build dashboards, right? The second is what we call Auto SQL. And again, these are fairly self-explanatory. Auto SQL allows you to generate SQL, explain SQL, and optimize SQL. Auto Expert is like having a MicroStrategy consultant and expert sort of on your shoulder. And what it allows you to do is instead of having to look through all of our documentation and whatnot, we've built a bot that has gotten all that knowledge. So if you want to ask it how to, create a derived metric or something like this, Auto Expert does that for you. And finally, really the flagship of these products is what we call Auto Answers. And this is meant for all of your, thousands of users out there that have questions and would like answers, but today aren't able to do that. And Auto Answers does it for them. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Erika to walk you through some demos.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Saurabh. So I'm very excited about what I'm going to show you right now because imagine that you are tasked with the impressive task of creating a new dashboard, right? Maybe Saurabh is asking me to create this new dashboard that he needs it by in 2 hours, right? Never happens. So imagine that I will have to just run around and try to get all the data sets, try to imagine what he wants to answer. Maybe he will have like different questions about it and so on. Well, I need to work very, very fast. What if I tell you that I have this AI assistant that will do it for me? So I have the pleasure to introduce you to Auto Dashboard. With this new feature, the only thing that I will have to do is select a data set. From that data set, I can trigger the Auto Assistant, and then it will generate those recommendations for me that they are based on the data set. So it's not randomly creating something. It's actually based on the data set, on the data that I own. Once that I click on one of those recommendations, there you have it. Instantly, I get a new page with a lot of visualizations that I can just customize. I can change the formatting and so on. So it's very, very lifetime saver, right? But what happens if I want something more specific, more curated, more customized? Well, I can just simply type whatever I want or whatever I need, and then the Auto Assistant will create that for me. It's that easy. I don't have to just think about any other things. I just have to explain it, what I need, and in a matter of seconds, I will get a completely new page created with all of these beautiful visualizations. And there you have it. So it's pretty impressive, right?
I love it.
I love it as
Thanks,
well.
Erika.
Okay, but let me give you this new scenario, right? Before we saw what an analyst will do, but what happens with those architects? We know that with MicroStrategy, we have tons of architects out there that need to do a little bit more complicated stuff, right? And writing SQL maybe sometimes is it can take you some time, kind of. You will have to understand what you have to do. You will have to understand your data sources, your table, what kind of joins you have to do, and so on. But let me tell you that we have this new capability that will allow you to do that. And imagine that for some reason you created this completely complex SQL, but that was 1 year ago, right? Well, maybe I don't remember exactly what I needed to do, or maybe I Well, it has been a year, right? Or maybe we switch to a different database, right? Like before we were using some other database and I need to tune those queries into the new database. I need to take advantage of like those specific functionalities. Well, I don't have to do anything because with the Auto SQL, it would do it for me, right? The only thing that I will have to do is trigger that assistant and it will give me some recommendations as well. But then I can type whatever I'm trying to do and then it will generate the SQL for me. So I have nothing else to do.
So Erika, I've got to say, I think this is a dangerous feature because it allows people like me that haven't written SQL in like 20 years to think that they suddenly can again, right?
Well, you can, and it will actually help you. And then the other pretty interesting thing is that you can actually get that explanation of the SQL. So if I wrote something a year ago, then it will explain it to me in plain language. So I don't have to even think about it. But what happens if I need it in Spanish? Well, that will be supported as well. So I can actually ask a question in Spanish. And then finally, it can tune that SQL into a specific database for me. So it's a very impressive feature. Now, Saurabh just explained a little bit about what happens if I have questions, right? If I don't remember exactly how to create the right metric, or maybe, I don't know, I want to know more about the AI features, right? Well, with Auto Expert, I can have all of that functionality there for me. And even if I get like, I don't know, I need to log an enhancement request or I need more support, well, the assistant will do that for me. So it's like having an expert right beside you. It's very quick and easy.
I've got to tell you that feature, I use it probably more than anything else because I'm used to like going to different people at MicroStrategy when I have questions about, hey, how do I do this or how do I do that? And now I just go to Auto Expert and just ask the question and boom. And I'm lucky, right? I have access to lots of really great MicroStrategy people that know how to do this stuff. But it's kind of like having all those people in one little box that can help you out. And we've made that part, by the way, available to everybody for free. So that one part, which is called Auto Expert, you can actually go to our website today and use it if you want to use it.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting as well. And finally, my favorite feature, I love that sometimes maybe someone shares a dossier with you, right? Like, and you're like trying to understand what's going on with that dashboard, and maybe it's a little bit complicated, right? But what happens if I tell you that I can get all that explanation and I can even dive deeper into all that data and what's happening behind the scenes without having to create another dashboard? Well, with Auto Answer, it's very, very nice because whenever you get into that dashboard, you can start asking questions right away. The only thing that you will have to do is trigger that assistant, and then it will have some generated questions for me so that I can, maybe I don't really know where to start. So I can click on that one, and then it will start analyzing my request. It will provide me an answer. And then the most important thing is that I will have the text, the explanation, plus a visualization. So you can get the best of both worlds. And then what happens if I need to dig deeper into that answer? Well, what I can do is just like type my question, and there's an autocomplete feature that will allow me to select from all the objects that are present on that data set or on that dashboard, so that it's a very guided explanation. And also another cool thing is that we integrated advanced visualizations or advanced analytics that are powered by machine learning. So we did all of this for you. So if you ask for a trend or forecast or a key driver, we can get that for you. And my favorite one is a key driver because you can actually understand what's happening behind the scenes or what's happening that is impacting a specific metric. You can have like the positive and the negative, and it will tell you right away what are the key drivers or the key items that are impacting that metric. So it's very useful.
You know, I fundamentally believe that the most precious thing that we all have in life is time. And if you just go back to all of Erika's demos, and you think about how much time that can save you or somebody else, it's an enormous amount of time. Whether if you're using Auto Dashboard, it takes dashboard creation from hours down to, minutes in some cases. If you have business users that are out there and they're looking at your dashboard and they have questions, instead of having to come and enter service requests and maybe come to Teams or Slack or email, and they get in the queue of people that have all these additional questions that you have to add to your dashboards, instead of going through all of that, those business users can now just go in and ask the questions on their own, right? And so it saves them huge amounts of time. It saves you huge amounts of time. And there's a lot of people out there that think IT is too slow. And it's really because of the time that it takes for IT and for many of you to answer the questions of the business users. And so if those users are able to serve themselves with simple Q&A, it can save them tons of time, you tons of time as well. So let's talk a little bit about how this all works, right? Because that looks like magic, but behind magic is some pretty sophisticated technology. And there's a couple of key things I want to talk about. The first is around the data itself, right? How do you make sure that all those answers that you were getting, that Erika was just showing you, how do you make sure that they're actually trustworthy? How do you make sure the calculations happen the right way? And so this is really where our semantic graph that we've been building upon for the last really over 20 years comes in. The semantic graph, for those of you that don't know, have business definitions, right? It's got the business definitions of the lexicon of your business. So, customer or account or product, it understands what those things are. And it also importantly understands how to calculate things, right? The metrics in there actually know how to calculate based on business rules that you've defined. Beyond that, it's got metadata and descriptions that help as well. And importantly, especially if you're trying to deliver solutions at scale to thousands and thousands of people, it's got very sophisticated governance and security capabilities, whether it's privileges and roles at the user level, or it's object level security or role level security in the data and the object itself. So that is what allows us to make sure that when we execute queries, when we get the answers back, it's the users are only able to see the things that they're supposed to see. And the answers are calculated by a deterministic process, which is our MicroStrategy engines and MicroStrategy query techniques. So that's where the trust and governance comes from. And importantly, we support pretty much any data source out there. And so when you think about a lot of the AI solutions that are starting to come out on the market, they tend to be specific to a stack, right? There's some great Salesforce stuff. There's some great stuff for Office 365. There's great stuff for Oracle and SAP and everybody else. Where we think that we add some unique value is our ability to really connect to all of those different data sources, bring them together, govern them, and then provide the AI capabilities on top of that. And I'll take a moment here to talk about diversity, actually, because if you think about the world and the things that we fundamentally believe in, of course, we believe in diversity as human beings and as companies, right? This is really important because we've come to understand as a society that in order to make sure that there's a lack of bias, like reduced bias in our decision-making, we need perspectives and voices from different, ethnicities in different parts of the world. Well, the same actually applies for AI. Right? So the more diverse data you can give AI, data from Salesforce, data from ServiceNow, data from SAP, data from your bespoke applications, and bring that together, the more unbiased the AI is in answering those questions, and the more your users are able to make decisions made on unbiased data. Right. So we think that, accessing all data sources, that sounds like a technical feature, which is, of course, true. But it allows you to actually make sure or improve the trust in the AI systems themselves. So how does that actually work? So we've got our semantic graphs. You've seen that, right? You've seen the Q&A functionality at the top. But what's kind of happening behind the scenes? Well, there's two things that we've done. The first is in the MicroStrategy ONE platform, we've integrated AI and deep learning skills. Okay. So we've integrated connectivity to, in this case, Azure OpenAI. We've integrated Python services and Python algorithms. We've integrated prompt engineering and optimization to actually, run the prompts and answer the questions. And that sits there right next to our semantic graph. And that's how these two things work together. What that means for you is that if you want to deploy AI with MicroStrategy, you just basically turn it on. You don't have to do the prompt engineering. You don't have to figure out how to, write against the OpenAI APIs. You don't have to figure out all that sort of stuff. We've done that all for you. We've even licensed it for you. And so you literally just, come along with us, get some great data sets in place, and start, building dashboards and asking things using the AI tools that we just showed you. Behind the scenes, though, it's important to understand the secret sauce. And this is the secret sauce, okay? I actually met with one of my favorite analysts last week, and he said to me, how is this different? Like, how is this different than these demos that we've seen in the past? Like, we've seen in the world of BI demos that kind of look like this. And my answer was, it works. And the reason is because we uniquely now have the ability to bring the semantic graph together with LLMs. And LLMs really were not something that we could use very openly just a year ago. Right now, they're available. We've got the hardware acceleration, all these things that those vendors provide. And so the way this works is actually shown here on the screen. On the left-hand side is what would happen if you tried to do what we showed you without MicroStrategy ONE, if you directly tried to get data into an LLM and get calculations out. And so you can do this, right? You can get data, you can pass it to an LLM, you can ask it a question, and you will in fact get an answer, okay? The problem with that answer is a few different things. The first is it's probabilistic. So it might give you different answers when you ask it the same question on the same data. And that's, of course, not a very reliable way to run your business. The second major issue is that the LLM often won't know how to actually do computations based on your business rules. And so something like a semantic graph with MicroStrategy helps you actually encode that business logic and ensure that the computations are done the right way in the right computation engines. And the third problem becomes governance and trust of the data itself. So making sure that only the right people see the right stuff. Of course, you can hand code all that, right? I mean, anything's possible with code, but MicroStrategy allows you to do that. So the world on the right is really how we're doing this dance between the world of BI and our semantic graph and our engines and the world of AI. And so what's basically happening, if you imagine back to Erika's example, where you clicked on Auto and the first thing it did is it made suggestions. Well, the way it does that is that we take information from our semantic graph and some sample data, and we send it off to Azure OpenAI, which, by the way, does not store any of that information. And we say, hey, what's interesting in here? What could a human being want to analyze? And it comes back, and that's where those suggestions come from, both in Auto Dashboard and in Auto Answers, right? Then we say, okay, cool. And the user can pick one of those or type something in, right? If they type something in, well, again, the BI layer doesn't understand human language. And it certainly doesn't understand it in multiple languages. And so if you type something in, again, we're going over to the AI layer and saying, hey, what does this mean? What is this user trying to do? And that's what we get from the AI layer. And then we ask the AI layer, okay, if this is what the user is trying to do, then how do we do it, right? How should we actually calculate this stuff? How should we synthesize this information on a screen? And it helps us figure out how to do that. But then the actual execution of the calculations and everything are done in the MicroStrategy ONE engines, okay? And that ensures that the calculations respect the calculations that you want. It ensures that all levels of security are applied and governance is applied and so on and so forth. And then what comes back, whether it's visualizations or answers, come back through that MicroStrategy layer, right? And then finally, we go back to the AI and say, hey, this is what we're giving back to the user. Can you explain this in human language, please? And the AI then will go ahead and explain that to you. And that's where the answers come from. So it really is this, I would say, almost like a dance between the AI layer and the BI layer working together to do what each of them is really, really good at. And the sum of those two parts is what results in the magic that we showed earlier on. All right. And the final thing I want to say is, especially for those of you that don't know MicroStrategy, we are very, very open in our approach, right? We're a standalone independent vendor. We love Microsoft, we love Google, we love AWS, we love Salesforce and SAP and everybody else as well. But we're not, just with any one of those, right? So when you need to deploy something very flexible that's future-proof, you can, take it from one hyperscaler to another. Your strategy can evolve over time. We can fit into pretty much any one of those scenarios, and we're really proud of that. And it's what's made us be here for 34 years. because I think a lot of people like that ability to have that flexibility in their deployment as well. So that is MicroStrategy ONE, okay, and MicroStrategy AI. It really is the integration or the coming together of AI capabilities that are modern and new with LLMs, with trusted BI capabilities that we've been building for 3 decades now, all on an open platform with open access to different types of data sources and open access to different cloud ecosystems as well. So everything that I showed you so far, and Erika showed you so far, is available today. So if you're interested in any of the things that you just saw, please do call us, go to our website, let us know, put your hand up, let us know that you're interested, and we'll happily, we'd love to partner with you, we'd love to work with you, and bring this, new functionality to reality. But the question really is, what's next? Where are we going next? And so what I want to show you in a moment here, if I can get this to work, is where we're going and what we plan to deliver in this quarter. So roughly in the December timeframe. Now, of course, I put the safe harbor statement up here because anything in the future is, it can change, we can run into problems, whatever. But it is, subject to change. Dates can slip here and there a little bit. It does happen. But we are pretty confident in our roadmap. So the big thing that we're planning to ship in Q4 is the ability for you to build your own bot. Okay. And what we mean by that is what you saw so far is the AI assistant called Auto sitting next to dashboards and sitting next to in a dashboard. You've seen those kinds of workflows or generating SQL, but they're all in the world of BI, right? They kind of sit next to BI stuff, right? Whether BI tools or BI UIs. What we really want to do is make it possible for you to take that same underlying technology, the trust, the governance, the AI integration, all of that, but integrate it and put it out there as standalone content, whether that's integrating it into your own applications. And they don't have to be MicroStrategy applications, by the way. You could just integrate what I'm about to show you in your own applications, or maybe you just want a standalone bot, right? A standalone thing that users can interact with. So what does this look like? So it looks something like this. Here's a few examples of, some fun bots that you could build. Of course, they're not physical, they're digital, right? But you can give these bots a personality. You can give them a name. You can connect them to just the data that you want, and you can tune them. So here's a few different examples of what you can imagine. I put these here just to get sort of the creative juices flowing. Like maybe you're building an FP&A bot called Finny or something, I don't know. Or you want to create like an ESG bot called Ellie, and you want to give it a leaf logo. Just the sky's sort of the limit and the kinds of bots that you might want to create. And the important thing is this bot will be a brand new object in MicroStrategy, and it is a first-class object in MicroStrategy. This matters because there's a lot of other bot companies that are starting to come out of the woodwork, especially, you could imagine there's tons of startups that do this, we wish them the best. But by building this into the MicroStrategy platform, those decades of work that we've done for enterprise governance to make it so that you can apply security and privileges and auditing capability and all of that just works. It just comes out of the box. Years and years and years of developing the ability to do this, SSO and integration with third-party systems. All of this just works. It's just part of our platform. And so it's a brand new object. And so you go into our web UI and you say, I want to create a new bot. Then, again, coming from our platform, all the data sets that you've curated and governed and put in place, those are available. You can build a bot on one or many of those existing data sets. Of course, you can also add new data, right? So, and we have data connectivity to pretty much everything out there. So you can, whether it's uploading a CSV or connecting to Salesforce or Snowflake or Oracle or whatever it is, you can also, of course, connect to new data. And once you do that, you have a bot. That's literally it. Okay. Now, what's special though, and so now you can, you could start asking questions and you'll see exactly what Erika had showed you before. You'll ask a question, it'll give you suggestions, you'll get answers, so on and so forth. But what's unique here is that this is a standalone object. You can put it anywhere and you can customize it. So just have a look at what's on the right-hand side here. This bot, we decided to call it Jarvis. Now, of course, you wouldn't actually call your bot Jarvis, but you could call it whatever you'd like, right? So you can give it a name, you can give it a logo, maybe it's your company logo, maybe you create a new little logo. By the way, we'll ship a bunch of logos out of the box, so you can, they'll be kind of cute. You can give it a name and a logo. You can actually, give it like some starting instructions and instructions to the user, so the user understands what this bot is for and what it can do. You can customize its appearance, so you can give it a different format and colors and all that sort of stuff. Put a new URL in there for a logo. But importantly, you can start giving it a personality. So if this is an ESG bot, you might want to say, hey, you're an ESG bot. You are friendly. You care about the environment, right? Or if you're an FP&A bot, it's like, behave like an accountant, whatever that might mean, right? I'm not going to go there. But you can tell it to behave in a certain kind of a way. You can give it a name. You can even tell it things that it wouldn't naturally know. Like you might want to tell it like, hey, this thing is the same as that thing. Or if you encounter, if you have to decide between this revenue and that revenue, pick that revenue, right? So you could give it some additional instructions and tune it over time as well. And then finally, as I pointed out earlier, you can connect to multiple data sets. But once you start testing the bot, you might realize, hey, these columns of data, these objects, they're sparse, they're not clean. I want to turn those objects off. Maybe you've got a couple of objects in there that confuse the bot because they both look like revenue and it's not really sure which one to use. You could disable that as well. So you basically get this ability to fine tune your bot, the personality, the look and feel, and the data that's available. And then boom, just like that, you can now save this bot and share it with people. And so you save it as an object in MicroStrategy. Again, you get all the administration and monitoring and governance that comes with the MicroStrategy platform. And we're going to make it possible for you to grab a bit of JavaScript and actually embed that bot into one of your applications as well. That's the part that we're planning to do in the December timeframe. But then as we start looking a little bit more into the future, we want to integrate the bot in Microsoft Teams and other parts of Office 365. We've got a really great partnership with Microsoft that we're really proud of. And so we'll continue enhancing that. And then even potentially putting the bot in a web browser. That way it's available all the time for your end users without even them having to kind of go and search for it. And so these are some of the things that we're planning over time as well. In terms of how the bot will work, so once you've created the bot, here you go. Of course, you can go in, you can ask questions, you'll get answers. We decided that, we looked at things like ChatGPT, and they have the ability to look back at the history of your chats. And what we realized, there's not a lot of data out there, by the way, but what we realized is people go back to those chats, not because they want to read their entire chat history, but because they had found some nugget of information that they liked, and they were trying to go back to find that, right? So we figured we could do a better job. And so we're adding this capability called snapshots that allow you to, like, when you find something that you're interested in, you can just kind of favorite it or take a snapshot of it. And that'll appear in this new snapshots panel. And so you get this bot that you can, favorite things, you can go back to it. It really becomes your buddy over time. And importantly, we're not just going to support the data that's coming from MicroStrategy. We're also going to allow it to go out to the internet. Now, this is a feature you can turn on and off. Okay, so when you create your bot, you can turn this off if you don't want it on. But there's cases where there's some really great data out there on the internet, right? Whether it's demographic information or information about who are the leaders at a particular company that's maybe one of your customers, whatever it might be. So you can actually turn that on. And so if the user asks a question that can't be answered by the internal enterprise data, it can go out and try to find that through the internet. But it does let the user know, and it will give a little warning saying, hey, listen, this is internet data, use with caution. This is not enterprise data. But being able to do those two things and eventually start to merge and answer questions that are a hybrid of those things, I think is really important as well. And so you've got your bot, a user can use it just like I showed you, or of course, you'll be able to embed it into different applications as well. So that is build your own bot. And it's the major thing that we have planned for this quarter in our roadmap. We've got a lot of other things planned in our roadmap for 2024, really exciting stuff. I'm super tempted to tell you all about it today, but I'd rather you come back in a future webinar. We'll launch some of those things as we go forward. So before we get to Q&A, just really quick, if any of you are interested in this, what can you do? The first thing is you can grab that QR code and you can sign up for a demo today, right? So we'll work with you. We'd love to, get some of your data and demo this to you. And then, of course, you can join us at MicroStrategy World 2024 in Las Vegas, which is always fun. And so if you're able to join us out there and we can get away from all these cameras and see you face to face, I think that'd be a lot of fun. We've got some exciting things planned, not in terms of product launches, but also we're going to have some fun with this bot thing, right? So I don't want to give it away, but we're going to have some fun with this bot thing. All right. So with that, why don't we do some Q&A?
Sure.
Sound good? All right. So what do we got here? There's a million questions. Let's start with this one. What kinds of questions and tasks is Auto capable of? Erika, you want to take that?
Sure. Well, you can actually ask anything about your data set and whatever you want to dig deeper into. Remember, like it's about like the aggregation and the summaries of the data that you have in there. So it's really, really good at answering those kind of questions. And the most important thing is that it will be based on the data set that you're triggering the auto from. And it will be able to respond into that specific context or scenario.
Thank you, Erika.
Sure.
Here's another one. Maybe I'll let you answer this. This is from Faizan. How will auto answers respond if a user enters a visualization that doesn't already exist in the dossier visual gallery?
So it will actually give you like a text like a response in natural language first, and then it will trigger one of the visualizations that we currently have. So far you can use like the heat map or anything else depending on the context of your question, because that's important thing. Maybe you're like asking for a specific visualization, but then if the model actually thinks that it will be represented into like a much better visualization, it will trigger that visualization.
Exactly. So I'm scrolling through all these, and I think the most popular question is MicroStrategy AI available for on-premise customers? Okay. So the answer is yes and no. It is not. You cannot add it to your existing on-premise deployment. It only runs in the cloud. But we can certainly spin up an instance in the cloud, in our managed cloud environment, for you with MicroStrategy AI, with whatever specific data and users and whatnot you want to make available there. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do contact us and go back to that QR code, or just go to our website and find a way to contact us, and we'd be happy to work with you on that. What else do we got here? Languages. Did you mention languages already?
I think I did, but it's important to like really mention that you can ask in different languages and it will be basically supported every single language that the MicroStrategy product supports. So you can use that in every feature. It doesn't matter if it's the auto expert, auto answers, all of those features will have that capability.
Thanks, Erika. There's a question from Mikhail. Does it work? The AI magic. I love that you put it that way. Does it work with the semantic layer only or with MTDI Cube? So just for those of you that don't know, you have two different ways to build a semantic model, what we call a semantic graph in MicroStrategy. One, like the hardcore way, if you will, is you build what's called a schema using objects coming, from database tables and SQL and all that sort of stuff, right? So yes, of course, we support that. And the other way is if an end user wants a more lightweight way to just have a semantic graph without really putting much energy in, they can upload an Excel spreadsheet or connect to a table of data, and we will automatically determine attributes and metrics and geographies and date time and stuff like this. Auto works on both of those. Yes. So in either scenario, whether it's someone building a sophisticated semantic graph, or an end user or more of an analyst type, just uploading a file and just sort of building an on-the-fly one, it works in both scenarios. What about multiple models? So I had mentioned OpenAI a few times. So we have a great partnership with Microsoft, with OpenAI. They really did have first time to market, or first mover advantage to market. And, with OpenAI and GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, they just did a really fantastic job. And so we partnered with them back, I think it was in April, and we got this rolling really fast. And they've been an amazing partner of ours. So we really love the partnership with Microsoft. They're doing a great job alongside with our engineering team as well. However, with that said, we have a DNA for being open, right? And so our plan in terms of large language models as we go forward into the next year and beyond is to support LLMs from different vendors, right? There's a million out there right now. And so we're sort of looking at each one. We're trying to benchmark and see which ones are the ones that are most valuable for, our use cases and our customers. But we do plan to support, we've got some POCs and things already started actually. So we do plan to support different LLMs. And over time, we do actually intend to support our customers' ability to bring their own trained LLMs for the domain knowledge that a trained LLM can have as well. So so we do definitely plan to open that up as we go forward. How is data security handled? So this is from Sharad Gupta. How will our data how is it handled? Will our data be shared with the Gen AI vendor? So with OpenAI. Do you want to tackle that one?
I'll tackle that one. So what we actually do is take that data or whatever you're asking, and then sending it back with a lot of magic in there, like a lot of engineer prompts and so on. And that data will go into the LLM, but nothing will be stored. So everything is secured while in transit. And then whenever it comes back, it passes through the semantic layer. So nothing gets stored. So even though that data is going to be sent out to be kind of represented or interpreted, nothing is going to get stored.
This is a really important question. I'll maybe answer it just another way. If you think about your data sets, right? You've got gigabytes or terabytes of enterprise data sitting in wherever it's sitting, Snowflake or Oracle or SQL Server, wherever it might be sitting. Okay. So let's talk about what we actually send over to Azure OpenAI. And that's also an important distinction. Azure OpenAI is the enterprise version of OpenAI, which is, again, it doesn't cache anything, it doesn't store anything. Your data is not kept there. But what we're actually sending over is a relatively small amount of data. It's certainly not terabytes or gigabytes of data. What we're sending over is the metadata, the information about the objects and the names of the objects. We also do send small samples of the lists of values, okay? And we do this because sometimes the object name isn't the same as the intent the user has. So for example, at MicroStrategy, you'll hear us talk about customers as customers, of course, right? That's the word we use, right? But as it turns out, in our Salesforce instance, they're not called customers, they're called accounts, just the way they're technically implemented. So our semantic graph at MicroStrategy for MicroStrategy data has accounts in it. But if I ask a question as a business user, who are my top 10 customers in Japan, for example, it can answer that question. And the reason it can answer that question is because it knows, based on a small sample of lists of values, that these are also customer, even though it says account at the top, right? It's also what allows for multilingual. You could ask that same question, but instead of using account, you could use the Spanish name for account or customer or client, right? And so we do need to send a little bit for it to be smart enough to be the magic that we showed you earlier on.
Also, just adding on top of that, it's very important to mention that your data is not going to be used to train the model.
Correct.
That's not happening.
Yeah. But as we go forward, as you can imagine, we pride ourselves on governance. And, as we start thinking about things like ethical AI and so forth, one of the things that we do have in our roadmap, doesn't exist today, but we have in our roadmap, is to add some more governance controls to the objects in our semantic graph. So basically giving you the ability to define the sensitivity of an object, right? Top secret, confidential, whatever you might want. And then also have a setting that says, don't send this to any, third-party LLMs, right? And that would then allow you to turn that off, and that won't be sent over. But we don't have that quite yet, but it is something that we're looking at and working on. All right. Any other questions that you saw that were on? OpenAI and other Gen AI vendors do have some token limits. How does that limit work in this case? All right. This is really interesting. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how we implement everything because we still have some patents to file, I think. But yes, so OpenAI does have token limits. I think it's 8,000, I want to say, or I can't remember exactly. But whatever it is, Yes, so we do have to live within those token limits, and that's the prompt engineering, right? So what you have to get the kind of behavior that you saw, we had to iterate over and over and over again to optimize our prompts so that they would fit into that token limit, right? And then, of course, the more tokens you use, the slower the response time as well, right? So we've had to optimize for all those things. And this is actually why it's really important, I think, to kind of get out to market and see what kinds of questions you ask, what kinds of data you put this on, because that allows us to optimize faster. And there are some other techniques, and I don't want to get into the engineering of this, but there are some other techniques that we're looking at that optimize the prompts even further as well. Yeah. But it's definitely something that we have to tackle every single day here, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Faizan asked, yes, you caught a typo in our slide. So he said, as per the diagram, the formatting block, and I kind of wish we could go back to it, but if you remember the diagram that went like that, okay, there's a step there that says formatting before it goes to answer, okay? It's not really formatting. What it is, it's explanation. We should probably change that word. So what's happening at that last step, OpenAI is not formatting the dashboard. MicroStrategy is doing that because we know how to do that, right? It happens to be one of the things that BI is really good at. What we do, though, in that last step is that we send that little block back to OpenAI and say, hey, explain this thing in natural language. And so that's it's the format of the answer, if you will, but it should really say explanation, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We do have a few more minutes.
Version, maybe?
Version, yeah, go ahead.
So
which version need to be on?
Which version do you need to be on? So for that one, it has to be the latest one. So it's the update 11, 2021 update 11.
Okay. So I think this is the last question that we'll get to is it a separate component? So this is from Roshan. Is this a separate component like Object Manager, Integrity Manager, et cetera? Yes and no. It's not like Object Manager, Integrity Manager, but it is a separate product that you buy as a product on top of MicroStrategy ONE. Now, there's something special about this product. It's the first product that we've actually released that uses consumption-based pricing. Yeah. And so there's a reason for this. We think that the adoption of AI across different kinds of personas, like think about all your personas, right? You've got developers, you've got analysts, you've got business analysts, you've got business users, you've got like store managers and frontline workers, truck drivers, maybe, but this broad range of people. And so we think that the adoption of AI is going to be pretty lumpy, actually. Some people will use it a ton, some people won't use it at all. And it'll be kind of lumpy. And so instead of having to have a named user model where you have to buy AI for every user, we thought it would be better to have a consumption-based model. So what you basically do is you buy blocks of questions, okay? And then your users can use those. You can make it available to everybody. And by the way, again, this is the MicroStrategy platform. So you get privileges and governance. You can turn things on and off and all that sort of stuff. You can decide which users can ask questions and all these things. You can even decide which dashboards the questions are associated with. So you can do all this sort of thing. But the point is, you can buy in blocks of questions, make it available to everybody. And the really cool thing is, every time somebody asks a question, of course, there's a cost, but every time they ask, they're probably saving you a ton of time, right? So that button when Erika generated a dashboard, that's a question. And if you think about how much time it would have taken an analyst to generate that dashboard, it's hours, right? But one question, boom, it's there. Similarly, when a business user asks a question, that's a question. Again, it could have taken them days to get the answer to that if they had to go through the usual, slacking somebody and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's a different product, but it is it's consumption-based pricing, which we think is really valuable to our customers. All right. So I think with that, we will bring today's webinar to an end. I thank all of you for joining us virtually. Like I said, I hope we can see you physically somewhere, whether it's in one of our events. So if you go to microstrategy.com, you can go to the events page. We've got events happening all around the world. I'm in Tokyo and Seoul in the next couple of weeks. We've got events in Boston and Philly, in New York. And there's another event that we're planning out in Paris and other areas. So just have a look at the events page, join us at one of those. And if you can't come to one of those, maybe you can join us at World in Las Vegas in, I think it's early May. Is that right? Early May of 2024. And if not, then maybe we'll see you again in one of our future webinars. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.